Hey, what is going on, YouTubers? This is Blight here to bring you another deck profile. And today, from the Age of Dual Terminal, we have the Evilswarms. They're probably one of the most famous dual terminal archetypes, and for good reason, because back in the day, they were the definition of a lockdown deck. Simply putting their boss monster on the field sometimes meant that your opponent could do absolutely nothing. What is it that made the Evilswarm so infamous? That is what we'll be discussing in today's video. So without further ado, let's get right into the deck profile. To start things off, we have 3 Evilswarm Castor. Probably one of their most important monsters, if not the most important one. During the turn this card was normal summoned, you can normal summon one Evilswarm monster in addition to your normal summon or set. You only gain this effect once per turn. Now, what does this mean? This means that as soon as Castor hits the field, you get an extra normal summon of an Evilswarm monster. Now, this means you will easily be able to go into your rank 4 XYZs or just swarm the field with the said Evilswarm monsters. They kind of have a fitting name, don't they? So yeah, as far as rulings go, Castor has several advantages over other effect monsters, and that is because his effect sets a condition upon his summoning, so even if your opponent tries to use Effect Veiler or Fiendish Chain, it does nothing and you will still be able to get your extra normal summon or set. So yeah, it should be noted that Evilswarm Castor is a warrior, which naturally means you can search him out with Rhoda, and with Rhoda being a 3, this is very beneficial to the Evilswarms because this is the card you want to have in your hand during your first turn because it helps you go into your Evilswarm Ophion and get off your plays from there. So yeah, Evilswarm Castor, you must play 3, it's an absolute necessity in this deck. Next, moving on, we have 3 vanilla monsters, Evilswarm Heliotrope. Now, why do we use vanilla monsters? Because they're just awesome. No, I'm kidding. Evilswarm Heliotrope stands out from most normal monsters because it has 1950 attack points. Now this is somewhat of a gimmick for Evilswarms. Almost all of their monsters have 50 more attack points than you would normally have. So it's usually so it's like 1950, 1750, 2550, stuff like that. So it's gonna give you a headache when you're calculating the life points sometimes, but yeah, that's what makes the deck all the more fun. Now, playing 3 Evilswarm Heliotropes, playing 3 vanilla monsters naturally means we'll be able to use Rescue Wabbit later on, but we'll get to that a bit later. So yeah, this guy is basically your beater, and he is what you can summon with Evilswarm Castor to help you knock down your opponent's life points, or simply go into a rank 4 XYZ monster. He is a rock type monster, so you cannot unfortunately search him out with Rhoda, but he's still pretty cool because why not have an evil gemstone knight defending you on in your duels. So yeah, not much else to say about Evilswarm Heliotrope, so moving on, we have triple Evilswarm Mandragora. Now, if you like Cyber Dragon, you're gonna love Evilswarm Mandragora, because her effect is the following. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can special summon this card from your hands. So it's like an improved version of Cyber Dragon. Now, the requirement isn't that you control no monsters and your opponent controls a monster, it is simply that your opponent controls more monsters than you do. So if they have like swarmed the field with I don't know, 3 or 4 monsters and you have nothing, you can easily special summon 2 Mandragoras from your hand and take it from there. So yeah, it's a plant type monster, and it's the evil form of Naturia Cosmo Beat. So yeah, maybe I should take this opportunity to say something about the Evilswarm storyline. Basically, the Evilswarms are made by the Evilswarm virus, which emerged when the Steel Swarm were defeated, and then the virus infected all the other dual terminal tribes, changing them into evil monsters. So yeah, the ones we saw before were the evil versions of Constellar, Gem Knight, and this is the evil Naturia monster. So like every dual terminal tribe now has an Evilswarm. And yeah, that's some of the trivia you need to know. I'm not gonna go into that in more detail. So moving on. Triple Evilswarm Kerykeion. Now this guy is just amazing. What does Kerykeion do? Well, basically, his effect is almost, is exactly the same as Constellar Sombre, and that is, you can only use each effect of Evilswarm Kerykeion once per turn. While this card is in the graveyard, if it was sent there this turn, you can normal summon one Evilswarm monster for one less tribute. Now, this effect, you can just forget about it because almost none of the decks who run Evilswarms have the higher level monsters like level 5s and stuff, so just forget about the first part of the effect. Now the second effect is the one that really matters. You can banish one Evilswarm monster from your graveyard, then target one Evilswarm monster in your graveyard. Add that target to your hand. Also, you gain this this card gains the following effects. This turn, you can normal summon one Evilswarm monster. So basically what this means is you summon this guy, banish an Evilswarm from your grave, add an Evilswarm from your grave to your hand, and then you get yet another extra normal summon. And this works with Castor, so you can add Castor from the grave, normal summon Castor, and you would still get Castor's normal summon. So that's 3 normal summons in one turn. There really aren't a lot of decks that can do this, so yeah. This card is basically your one card XYZ. It is the top deck you will be praying for when you're faced with difficult situation, and overall it's just an amazing card. Also, I love the artwork. I had to look up how to pronounce this guy's name properly, so it's Kerykeion. It basically means the staff of the Greek god Hermes. So yeah, that's what he's named after. And he's the evil form of Constellar Rustlehog. You can look it up if you want. Moving on. We have 2 Evilswarm Thunderbird. Now this, out of all the Evilswarms, notice how they all have the summoning effects and making it easier for you to summon more monsters. Well, Evilswarm Thunderbird has no such effect, and that is the reason why I'm playing 2 of them. Most builds play 2 Evilswarm Thunderbird just because it's not as good as the other members of the Evilswarm gang. What does Thunderbird do? So let's see. During either player's turn, when a card or an effect is activated, except during the damage step, you can banish this card you control. During the next standby phase, return this card banished by this effect to the field, and if you do, it gains 300 attack. You can only use the effect of Evilswarm Thunderbird once per turn. So it's a 1650 beater that can just run away from the field and come back on the next standby phase with 1950 attack points. Basically, if you have nothing else going, you can just summon this Thunderbird, and it'll probably be able to survive until your next turn. Then you can just normal summon something else and go into your rank 4 XYZs. But this card is infinitely more useful in the chain beat decks than it was in the Evilswarm, so yeah, but still, it's an Evilswarm, so we might as well try. Evilswarm Thunderbird 2, you can play 3, but really there's no need. And now, everybody's favorite bunny, Rescue Rabbit, yay! Goes without saying, if you're playing vanilla monsters, this guy is a staple in your deck. I enjoyed having Rescue Rabbited too, because drawing this guy on the first turn meant you could easily go into your Evilswarm Ophion or basically any rank 4 XYZ with no problems. But don't think because Rescue Rabbit is 1 you cannot play it, because it is still as awesome as it used to be. This guy is basically your top deck, and it's something you want to draw on your first turn. The only situation you don't want happening is drawing Rescue Rabbit while you don't have Evilswarm Heliotropes in your deck to special summon, and that is just a disaster. But there is one Evilswarm trap card that can help you even in this situation to fix things up. Well, we'll get to that a bit later. So Rescue Rabbit, an amazing card, and I wish you guys that you draw this on your first turn. So yeah. That is it for the monsters. Now let's move on to the spell cards. Now this deck is not very heavy on the spell side as it is on the trap, but yeah. Now the most important Evilswarm spell card, Infestation Pandemic. What is this? Infestation Pandemic has the following effect. All face-up Evilswarm monsters you currently control are unaffected by spells and trap effects this turn. So this is basically a free Forbidden Lance with absolutely no drawbacks. It's also a quick play spell card, so you can just set this and you'll be safe during your opponent's turn. Now, needless to say, running 3 of these is an absolute must. Some people run 2, and I have actually tested running 2, but then as the duel goes on, I start wishing I had the third one, so yeah. From then, I never played less than 3 copies. Evilswarm Pandemic is also searchable by Evilswarm Ophion, but we'll get to him more once we get to the extra decks. So you can easily add this card to your hand to protect your Evilswarm monsters, get off your plays, and just keep you relatively safe during the duel. So yeah. Next up we have Reinforcement of the Army. Luckily now it is at 3, and there is no reason why not to play 3 because Evilswarm Castor is one of the more important cards in this deck, and we want to search him out as soon as possible. So yeah, not much to say about Rhoda except run 3 and enjoy. So yeah, next up, 2 Mystical Space Typhoons. Now, the reason why I run 2 is because you already have 3 pandemics to protect you from spells and traps, so you would mostly use Mystical Space Typhoon to get rid of some continuous spells or traps that annoy you, such as Shadow Imprisoning Mirror or Skill Drain, stuff like that. You can put the third one in your side deck and then just swap it out for something if need be. But for me, 2 Mystical Space Typhoons in the Evilswarm deck is just enough. Next up we have Book of Moon. Not much to say here except it just flips your opponent's monsters face down. This is going to help you against the Shaddolls because you can flip Winda and then you can special summon more than once per turn. Or you can just prevent some of your opponent's monsters from even using their effects like, I don't know, Fire Fist Bear or Wolf Bark, stuff like that. So yeah, Book of Moon is self-explanatory. I run 1, and of course 1 is all you can run because it's limited. It's a good card, and it's one of those cards, spell cards, that works more like a trap than a spell. So yeah, Book of Moon. Next up we have a very disgusting and evil card that I wish was never unbanned, but what can you do? You have to play it. It's Snatch Steal. If you don't know what this does, it's an equipped spell card. You equip it to your opponent's monster and you gain control of it. And your opponent gains 1000 life points during each of his or her standby phases. So this card is just so broken and so unfair, especially in late game when they top deck something and then you just take it away from them. So yeah, disgusting card, should never have been unbanned in my opinion, but what can you do? You gotta enjoy the moment. So yeah, Snatch Steal. And then we have another card that was unbanned, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be in the past. Raigeki. It just wipes off the board of your opponent's monsters. But in today's meta, what can you do with Raigeki? Like, Winda is indestructible. Cleaforts will just be back next turn. Dante and the Burning Abyss gang are just going to swarm the field even after you wipe them out with Raigeki. So not much this card does. I usually end up siding this card out during the second match, so yeah. Next, moving on to the traps. That was all for the spells. Like I said, this deck does not run too many spells, which is not what can be, which cannot be said for the traps because this is a very trap-heavy deck. Now, let's begin. We have 1 Infestation Infection. This is the only Evilswarm trap I use. They have several traps, but basically this is the only useful one. What this does is, it's a continuous trap card. You can also search it out with Ophion, and it says the following. Once per turn, you can shuffle 1 Evilswarm monster from your hand or face up from your side of the field into the main deck. Add 1 Evilswarm monster from your deck to your hand. So this is basically a mega search. What this does is, each turn you can return an Evilswarm from the field or your hand to the deck and just get any Evilswarm you need. So if you need Castor, you can search him out. If you need Kerykeion, he's there. So yeah, this card is just amazing. Like I said, this also helps you get rid of the Heliotropes in your hand. If you happen to draw, I don't know, 2 Heliotropes and 1 Rescue Rabbit, return a Heliotrope, get a Kerykeion, and then you can use Rescue Rabbit's effect. Now, it should be noted you cannot return Evilswarm XYZ monsters because this card refers to the main deck, not the extra deck. So you cannot send your Ophion back to the extra deck and search out monster from your main deck. That would just be amazing, but nope, you cannot do that. Also, shuffling one Evilswarm from the hand or field to the deck is a cost for this card, so watch out for that MST, because if you pay the cost and they MST you, like all continuous trap and spell cards, the effect will not resolve, and you will just end up shuffling a Evilswarm monster back into the deck for absolutely no reason. So yeah, be careful with this card. It's amazing when used right, but it can be potentially dangerous if you're not careful. Moving on, we have one safe zone. I used to run this at 2, but found it to be too cloggy. This is a card that works well to protect your Ophion in certain situations. If you're facing like synchro decks and other decks that you really lock down, you want to keep your Ophion on the field as much as possible. Also, you can do the infamous Master Key Beetle lockdown, because if you use Master Key Beetle's effect on safe zone, Master Key Beetle becomes nearly immortal. So yeah, safe zone, it's very fun to play and it opens up some interesting possibilities. Also, if your opponent has a monster on the field and they MST this face down card, you can just activate it, target their effect monster, and it will get destroyed, because once safe zone is removed from the field, the monster it was equipped to is destroyed. So this card has a lot of uses and is generally very fun to play. Next up we have an interesting card that debuted in Legacy of the Valiant, and that is Kill Prisoner. This is how it works. Target one card you control. Excuse me. When any monster effect resolves that targeted that card at activation, negate the effect. During either player's turn, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from the graveyard. Then target one card you control. This turn, when any monster effect resolves that targeted the card at activation, negate the effect. Now this may sound complicated, so I'm just going to put it in layman's terms. If any of your cards on the field, regardless if they're face up or face down, gets targeted by a monster effect, you activate this and you negate that monster effect. And you can activate it again from the graveyard. Exactly the same effect. You can even use it during your opponent's turn, but you cannot use the same effect twice in one turn. So yeah, this is what's gonna help you protect your monsters from effect veilers and other stuff that other monster effects that target. Excuse me. So yeah, Skill Prisoner, I play one, but basically this is like playing 2 because you can use it twice. So it's a very nice addition to the Evilswarm deck. Next up we have 2 Mirror Force and Glorious Secret Rare. I like Mirror Force because sometimes with this deck, if you're unable to go into your XYZs, you want to have some back row protection, and this is what offers you protection. Mirror Force, if your opponent declares an attack, all their face-up attack position monsters are destroyed. This is one of the best known trap cards, and you probably all know what it does. So yeah, I like running through. It's actually a 3 now, but 3 would just be overkill. So yeah, 2 is just the perfect number in this deck. Next up we have Fiendish Chain. So usually decks either run Fiendish Chain or Effect Veiler. The reason why I run Fiendish Chain in this deck is, like I said before, if you're unable to go into your XYZs and you just have one weakling monster on the field, you really want it to survive a turn, and this is what's going to help you, because Fiendish Chain not only negates your opponent's monster effect, it also prevents them from attacking. So this can help you stop attacks, and then you can recover on your following turn. So yeah, Fiendish Chain, I played at 2. 2 is just the perfect number for me, at least. Next up, Torrential Tribute to blow up the field. Bottomless Trap Hole to get rid of any 1500 or higher monsters. Solemn Warning literally gets rid of anything that can summon or any monster that has been summoned. So yeah, naturally we play these 3 staples. And then we have one Vanity's Emptiness. Now this card is amazing for the current meta, and if I had 2 I would play them, but unfortunately I only have 1. So yeah, if you have 2, be sure to try them out. What this does is neither player can special summon, so yeah, this is, needless to say, this is very restricting. And if a card is sent from your deck or your side of the field to your graveyard, this is automatically destroyed. But you can protect it with Master Key Beetle, or you can just use it in key moments to help maintain field control. Overall, Vanity's Emptiness is a very nasty card that's that became infamous in the current meta. It's funny how it was a common back when it came out because it literally did nothing. It came out midway through the Synchro era, I believe, and when it did, there was really not a lot you can do to keep this card on the field. You could just use it to stop a special summon and that was it, but usually you wouldn't run it at all, so that's probably why it was a common, but now it's one of the most expensive common cards of all time, so yeah. Next up we have Compulsory Evacuation Device. Staple, not much to say about that. Soul Drain. Now, the reason why I main deck Soul Drain is because there are a lot of Shadal's Burning Abyss decks out there, and this is what's going to help you with those decks. What Soul Drain does is activate by paying 1000 life points. Monsters that are banished, as well as monsters in the graveyard, cannot activate their effects that start a chain. So yeah, basically this shuts down Burning Abyss and Shadal's for the most part. But it's limited to 1. I wish they would put this card to 2 because it would just help out the meta greatly. But yeah, until it is, all we can do is run 1 and pray we draw it in the right moment. And last but not least, we have 1 Dark Illusion. This is basically filler because I am missing a Dimensional Prison. If I had Dimensional Prison, I would run it instead of this card, but this is also good. What Dark Illusion does, it's a counter trap that says negate the activation of a spell card, trap card, or effect monster's effect that targets a face-up dark monster and destroy that target. Since all of your monsters except Rescue Rabbit are dark, if they're targeted by an effect, you just activate this counter trap, negate, and destroy. Simple and effective. So yeah, that is it for the traps and the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck, which is the most important part of the Evil Swarms. And now their star monster, finally, Evilswarm Ophion. This card was the nightmare of the metagame in the past, and for good reason. While this card is XYZ material, level 5 or higher monsters cannot be special summoned. So basically this means if Evilswarm Ophion is on the field, you can forget about synchro summons and stuff like that. So yeah, it also has an additional effect. Once per turn, you can detach 1 XYZ material from this card. Add 1 Infestation spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. So this is what helps you search out your your Infestation Pandemic and your Infestation Infection, the spell and trap card I mentioned before. Evilswarm Ophion is also notorious for having that 50 more attack points. It has 2550 attack points, meaning it causes a lot of trouble even for today's meta because it can be hard to remove from the field. Dante can only get up to 2500. So yeah, 2500 being the most common attack of rank 4 XYZ monsters. So yeah, Evilswarm Ophion is just amazing. And it's the card you'll mostly be going in on your first turn and later on because it not only locks down your opponent, it's also a great beat stick. So yeah, I run 2, you can run 3, but I found it to be a bit useless because if your opponent can get over 2 Ophion, then you're doing something wrong and the third one isn't going to save you. Next up we have Evilswarm Bahamut. Now this is their own little version of Big Eye. This is what Bahamut does. Once per turn, you can detach 1 XYZ material from this card to target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. Discard 1 Evilswarm monster, and if you do, take control of that opponent's monster. Simple and effective. You discard an Evilswarm monster to take control of their monster. Now I should note that discarding the Evilswarm monster is quite costly in this deck because usually the monsters you have are gonna be the ones you draw on your first turn and maybe a couple of them later on, but that's it. So this is probably the reason why they made it so that discarding an Evilswarm monster is not a cost. So if this gets hit by Valor, you do not have to discard a Evilswarm monster for no reason. So yeah, Evilswarm Bahamut combined with Snatch Steal can make some interesting combos. Imagine just stealing 2 of your opponent's monsters and then going for the OTK. So yeah, Evilswarm Bahamut, I run 1, it's just enough at 1. It's not something you'll be using a lot, but it can be game changing. Next up we have their boss monster, and the leader of the Evilswarm, Evilswarm Ouroboros. He's a generic rank 4 XYZ monster. It requires 3 level 4 monsters, but like I said, in the Evilswarms you have a lot of ways to put 3 or more monsters on the field, be it with Mandragora, Kerykeion, or Evilswarm Castor. So yeah, there's a lot of ways you can make this, and its effect is the following. Once per turn, you can detach one XYZ material from this card to activate one of these effects. Each effect can only be used once while this card is face up on the field. Target one card your opponent controls, return that target to the hand. Send one random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard. Target one card in your opponent's graveyard, banish that target. So you can use whichever one of these effects you find most suitable for the situation. If it's late game and you're afraid of your opponent's hand, you can just have them send one random card from their hand. You can also banish a key card from their graveyard, like Treeborn Frog or something. But the effect you'll mostly be using is the bouncing effect, which is just amazing. You just bounce whatever card on the field, and whatever card on your opponent's field you found to be troublesome. But with cards like Silent Honor Arc, Evilswarm Ouroboros has sort of lost its purpose for the most part, but still it's a cool card to play, and if you're playing Evilswarms, then why not include their leader in the extra deck. Moving on, one Master Key Beetle, because Master Key Beetle has a lot of potential in this deck. It's a rank 4 monster. It requires 2 level 4 dark monsters to make, which is not a problem since almost all of your monsters are dark. Once per turn, you can detach one XYZ material from this card, then target one card you control, except this card. While this card is face up on the field, that card cannot be destroyed by card effects. If this face up card on the field will be destroyed, you can send one of those targets to the graveyard instead. It may seem complicated, but it's not. So basically this is how it works. You detach a material, target one of your cards. While Master Key Beetle is on the field, that card that you targeted cannot be destroyed by card effects. So if you target a spell or trap card such as Safe Zone, that would mean Safe Zone cannot be destroyed by Mystical Space Typhoon. And in turn, Safe Zone protects Master Key Beetle from being destroyed by battle or being targeted, so it's a very nasty lockdown thingy. You can also use it to stop Vanity's Emptiness from being destroyed, because Vanity's Emptiness destroys itself by its own card effect, and Master Key Beetle can also prevent that. So yeah, this is what you'll be using to perform the lockdowns and shenanigans and whatnot. And it also has 2500 attack points, which is nice. At least it's not under 2500, so that's always good. I don't have the Evilswarm Excitonite. It's an amazing card, and I wish I did, but I don't. If you do, of course, you would run it and Silent Honor Arc. But because I don't, I had to put in some filler monsters. So, filler number 1, Photon Papilloperative. You probably know what it does, but if not, I'll read it. Once per turn, you can attach one XYZ material to target one defense position monster on the field. Change it to face-up attack position, and if you do, it loses 600 attack. Now, this is what you'll be using against Marshmallow, Spirit Reaper, and stuff like that you cannot normally get over. And it also helps you flip up certain monsters that have a lot of defense, like Dante, for example. So yeah, it's not something you'll be doing a lot, but it's nice to have the option. Next up we have Utopia and Utopia Ray. Now you'd be surprised at how many times you'll be in a situation where your life points are under 1,000 and you have that Kerykeion in your hand. You go and make Utopia Ray and hit your opponent for 4,000 damage, which is just amazing. So I enjoy having this option in the Evilswarms, and since you'll mostly be using Ophion and their XYZ monsters, you have enough room to put Utopia in, so why not do it? So Utopia and Utopia Ray, one of each. Next we have Gaga Cowboy for game, Diamond Direwolf to help you remove one of those nasty lockdown spells or traps, such as, I don't know, Shadow Imprison Mirror, stuff like that. Ragna Zero to help you with raccoons, because Ragna Zero loves destroying raccoon tokens and helping you draw cards. It also makes for a decent counter against stuff like Gravekeepers and Fire Fists. Basically any deck that has spells or effects that boost monsters' attacks. So yeah, Ragna Zero, you cannot go wrong with this one, because not only does it destroy monsters, it's a quick effect and it lets you draw a card from your deck. So it's a pretty good rare card to have. Next up, Abyss Dweller to help with all your Shadal and Burning Abyss problems. Too bad it's just a 1700 attack monster, but what can you do? Its effect is still amazing and it can be a game changer. And Dark Rebellion XYZ Dragon, the definition of a beat stick. What this guy does is you detach 2 XYZ materials to target one monster your opponent controls, you half its attack, and then you gain the lost attack. And then this card gains the lost attack, and it's permanent. So if your opponent has something like Heroic Champion Excalibur with 4,000 attack points, you just steal 2,000 attack points, you go up to 4,500, and the attack increase remains as long as the card is face up on the field, so its effect does not end during the end phase. It's something that's very good in late game. If your opponent manages to put a boss monster on the field, you can easily get over it, and then your Dark Rebellion becomes the boss monster. So yeah. Speaking of Heroic Champion Excalibur, why not run him also? Because he's a warrior and you have Evilswarm Castor as your option to go into rank 4 XYZ. So yeah, you can make him with 2 Evilswarm Castor. Not something you'll be doing a lot, but hey, why not have the option? And last but not least, a card that I teched in, number 104, Masquerade. Now, why would we use Masquerade? Because it's very useful against Burning Abyss. It requires 3 level 4 monsters, it has 2700 attack points, and the following effect. During either player's battle phase, when an opponent's monster's effect is activated, you can detach 1 XYZ material from this card, negate the activation, and if you do, inflict 800 damage to your opponent. So if you go over Dante and it has, I don't know, Seer as the XYZ material, you can negate both of them in the graveyard and burn your opponent for 1600 life points, which is pretty decent, and so I enjoy having that option. And like I said, I am missing some key cards such as Castel, Silent Arc, and Exiton Knight. If I had those, I'd probably get rid of some of the filler monsters, but you gotta make do, I guess. So yeah, that was the Evilswarm deck profile. I hope you guys enjoy. I know this was a bit longer than usual, but I like to get into details, and so I just assume that if a person is watching this deck, they want to know all the pros and cons. But for those of you out there who are just here for the deck, I always put the deck profile, the deck list, in the video description, so reading it up, it would be no problem. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys later with more deck profiles, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon stuff. Bye bye.